We are up and rolling. Good group today. Nobody new, but
So, Mike, before you go too far, can we talk about the church and whether we want to continue having every other time on Zoom or whether we want to meet in person at the church every time?
well, I was going to start with announcements, but you can go with that one if you want.
I'm sorry.
I snort. Go ahead. Hey,
That's my question. Are you all happy doing Zoom every other time?
I am.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I do enjoy going to the church
Yeah.
in-person sessions, but the Zoom works out okay.
All right.
Yeah, in person is kind of always my
Prefer-
favorite.
Is always what?
My favorite.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like in person too.
Yeah, it's nice to be in person now and then, every other time, whatever.
Right. They seem to be more lively when we're in person.
Yeah,
So do you want to meet in person every time then, or are you happy doing this?
Happy doing this.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little easier to meet on Zoom if you have anything else going on in the
Going
day.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like-
agree. It helps me. I like having the alternate, even though I do prefer the in-person.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, anyway, the second thing is the next meeting is on July 4th.
Oh, is it really?
I don't have any plans, but I'm sure everybody else does.
No,
well, our choices
Really?
are to just skip that meeting or change the date a little bit. I mean, there are not so many of us that we couldn't get the word passed around, but we don't want this to be a bird sanctuary issue that it takes 2 weeks to get a consensus about when people are going. What do you all think?
I mean, I'm going to be around, so it's okay for me to go meet at the, that would be at the church and at the chapel.
correct.
I'd be fine.
I would be
I'll be
fine.
here.
Yeah.
I could do it.
at this point, it's good. I'm not sure what I'm gonna be doing with the rest of the family, though.
Yeah.
So,
Once you say yes here, the heck with the family.
yes, that's okay. Then it's a go.
You made the decision, Bob, and go with it.
Yeah, okay, let's go with it.
Are we
didn't-
saying yes for that Tuesday or for a different day? I wasn't paying attention.
I thought it was that day okay,
it's
for
that day.
Tuesday, the 4th.
Yeah, I'm going to be here. It'd be okay with me too. Yeah.
All right, we'll meet. I just have to let the church know whether to turn the AC on or not.
Oh, right.
That would be good.
All
And
right.
Tom, I didn't say hello to Mike when he came on, but Tom, did you hear what the discussion's about, whether we were going to meet in person on the 4th or skip it?
I did not hear the discussion, but I probably won't be around, but that's okay. I don't know how that's relevant, but
Well, let's just plan
we
on,
usually go out of town on the 4th.
yeah, let's just plan on meeting at the church on the 4th.
Okay.
And we have a small group, that's fine. Lynn?
So there won't be any other meeting prior to ours. So if you want to meet at 11, we can,
Okay.
Okay.
or leave it 11:15, whatever you all choose.
Well, we'll
Alright.
get people discombobulated if we meet at 15 early. It's fine with me, but
I'm fine.
okay. Well,
I'm fine
Helen will
too.
send out good notes. I know that. So
But
11 o'clock.
On the 4th, okay. I'll
Well,
let the-
11 o'clock.
Okay.
No fireworks permitted.
How about grilling hamburgers and hot dogs?
Yeah.
Well, there is that. So, okay. Any other announcements from any?
I was just curious, I'll ask the question is, with the church and the photographs that we had presented there, is there, the church have anything going on now since we're off the walls?
No,
We're off the wall, yeah. But, yeah, I just wonder if a few people or everybody would want to maybe come up with a concept where we could, it doesn't have to cover the whole meeting hall there, but, maybe do something like each person maybe take a subject and maybe provide 2 images or so, and, just come up with something so we can keep the walls covered. Or at least maybe even just a wall.
Lynn, do you think they would be okay with that?
Well, unless somebody steps up and wants to use the space, I was going to suggest that we at least plan to do it again in the fall.
Mhm.
And this time, since, probably we'll all be taking pictures this summer, maybe we limit it to recent, pictures instead
Yeah.
of the archives like we all did.
Yeah,
What I did on my summer vacation.
Yeah,
that's true. And I will have just be coming back from a trip to Yellowstone at that point, so
Oh,
I'm
it'd be
sure
good.
I'll get a lot out there.
Well, so maybe
Nice.
we should just pick some dates in the fall, September or whatever, and ask to do it again. I think they'd be fine with it.
or we had talked about finding a perhaps larger venue. Is there any interest in that?
I'm sorry, doing what?
A larger venue, another place that would be open more, would give us more exposure?
Do you know of such a place?
I haven't lived in Chatham County that long, so perhaps others might know. I don't know.
Well, my result in having a lot of the same pictures up, if we don't give it some time for new things to come rolling in, and the only place I can think of is Seymour, and I don't know what their rules are. I mean, that was where it's out of county. That's one problem, I guess.
Yeah,
What about the gallery at the plant? Is that only for Chatham Artists Guild?
It is absolutely under the control of the guild.
Yeah,
The only 2 months, let's see, November and December, I think, or maybe it's there are 2 months where the original folks that were running it have control, but everything else is guild only.
the visitor center, the museum at the courthouse. I have no knowledge of those places, but
The other thing, and I didn't follow up on this, was some of my friends didn't make it to the exhibit and they said they'd like to come to the church and see it. And I
yeah,
never tried to find out when they could have come by, In other words, the other alternative is to make it, to know what times people could come by and go to Chapel in the Pines. And maybe Chapel in the Pines open all the time, but I never followed up to see what times I could provide people with. So that's another option too.
Yeah, well, the office is open Monday through Thursday. I think 9 to 1 or maybe longer, I'm not sure, something like that. So those times would have been available.
mhm.
Well,
All
Are we
right.
paying anything for the space at Chapel in the Pines?
no, I mean, each time, Stephen, we've asked for, we passed a basket, an offering basket, if you will, for contributions at the end of our regular
Mhm.
meetings. But the only thing that was going to the church for this was if somebody sold a photograph, the deal was 15% to the church. But
Yeah. I guess I was thinking, we could sell the photographs and donate proceeds to the church or to wherever we wanted to meet, which might open up, other spaces if we felt we needed more spaces, if we were able to pay for it in some way.
well, the church has been an incredible opportunity for us, and
Yeah,
um, I, unless somebody wants to vet a specific place, and then report back, we have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I guess it seemed to me whether we stayed at the church or not, it might be worth thinking about, do we want to offer things for sale and donate to the church, if they're sold through them?
well,
I don't know, how much is not something, I guess when I was thinking about that, well, it's a donation is what I was thinking, if I want to sell it someplace else, I won't put it up there. But, it's maybe not necessary. It might be a nice thing to
just
do.
speaking for myself, I don't have a catalog of framed images like you were kind of alluding to, Mike, that yeah, it's good to have some time for me to mount some more things in frames. And so I don't feel a need to have any more photography displayed at the moment.
Mhm.
I don't have anything different to show.
well, again, and if you think of some other place, I mean, it's always appropriate to bring it up.
Yeah. Now,
What is
I'm
the
very
big-
happy with where it is myself. I just, I was hearing that maybe we needed more space if we started having more people.
I'm certainly happy with it too, but I was just wishing that there was a place that was open. Not 24/7, but more hours, and would give us a little bit more exposure. What's at the visitor center in downtown Pittsburgh, Mike?
The
Too small?
the Silver Arts stuff was up at the Visitor Center year before, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. It's not a good place. Um, there are small rooms, and I don't know whether they've been taken over or not, but it was not a good venue,
Okay.
in my opinion. Which is why I think Silver Arts went to Siler this year, because the senior center there is nicely set up with a big room, smaller than the church for sure, but
What about the agricultural center? Or the college?
yeah, I don't know anything about the Ag Center, although I've been there, but I never vetted to see whether they were open to such things. They might be.
Well,
If you know somebody,
That when we
maybe
go
somebody
in-
needs to research this instead of guessing.
yeah, yeah. If you know of a place, talk to them and bring back a report. So, Bill, do you have any educational topics to pontificate on?
Well, if my internet stays intact here, because I was gone there for a few minutes.
I noticed you were there.
Yeah, I just went away. We're going to be doing barns,
Right.
and let's see, I'm going to try something here. And what I did is this happens to be a Word document, so it's not going to do very well here. Is it moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There it goes. Ooh.
So I just found this article, so I just kind of cut and pasted it onto a Word document. Just maybe something to think about when we talk about going out and trying to find barns. And there's 4 tips that he pretty much talks about. One is the one theory. What is that one thing that made you stop, and what makes you look at that barn? Find something that captures you as much as you want to capture it. The second, and again, I'll send this out to everybody. Take your time. Barns are patient. We aren't. But one thing we have to realize that sometimes barns can probably show themselves best in either sunrises or sunsets, when you really get that low sun and the reds pop, and starts bringing texture, to bring contrast into the image as well. Pictures in the middle of the day may not be as impactful, but depends on, I guess, what's around it as well.
Wow.
Yeah, like this one here, it's during the day. It's nicely framed with the trees, where the leaves have fallen and it has snow in it. So during the day, this one certainly looks pretty good. And what they show here is demonstrate depth, by taking an image, not just straight on and saying this is a barn, but finding some angle that will show the depth from the back of the barn there down to the end of it. Consider perspective, not just shooting at eye length, but either getting low or getting high, a little bit like we talked about unusual perspectives as well. Make it look more 3D than 2D. And then in post-processing is, the idea that, this is not a person, you're not trying to make them, skin look smooth and wonderful and things like that. So when you do go into post-processing, the recommendation here by this person is, crank it up a little bit. Be willing to do a lot with maybe contrast and, be able to show the paint peeling or the metal roofs, whatever. Just play. That's something like Tom would probably say, is just play in post-processing and find it. And the very last thing that's not marked as a tip is exposure bracketing. This is something that we've talked about that we haven't gotten together to do, but by being able to take 3 different images of a barn, especially if it's under unusual lighting circumstances, you can take the 3 images. One is normal exposure, one might be 2 stops over, one is 2 stops under. And then you can bring it into something like a Photoshop Elements or an Affinity or Photoshop and take advantage of the proper exposures of each 3 that the software will actually do for you. And it just gives another tool to try to make an interesting image. I'm actually putting something together for the Chapel Hill Camera Club and for the Seymour Center on exposure bracketing. It's not completely finished yet, but I'd be willing to send that out as well. And if somewhere along the line, a few people want to get together and actually do it hands-on, maybe we can meet over at the goat or over at the roost and practice it a little bit and actually feel it, touch it, smell it, and actually even put it into the post-processing while we're out there.
That'd be great.
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely.
So that's all I really have. I'm going to try something here. See if, oops. Did a different screen show up?
No, it's still on the same one.
Do this,
Yes.
then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do that.
Right now, it's just on the Hollywood Squares. It's not,
Let's see. Oh, you mean us?
Yes.
Oh,
yep, we're just seeing we're just seeing the squares for
well,
pictures.
we can actually just watch them all day long then.
That's right.
We're so entertaining.
No case. All right. Now you got something coming up.
Now it's this.
It's your
What's the chances there's
photos.
one dark image? Yeah. I'm gonna try one more thing and then that's gonna be it because.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. What I'm just going to show you is this was a part of a bracketing. This is one where it was 2 stops underexposed.
Mm-hmm.
Did it change, I hope?
Yeah.
mhm.
It got brighter.
Yeah.
This is what my camera thought was right. You can see how light the sky is and how dark the front is. And then this one here is 2 stops overexposed. So you can now see the detail in the bushes in the front much better. Then when you put it into
Wow.
Photoshop Elements and use the photo merge option with the exposure photo merge, you can take those 3 images and it will put it together, considering what is the best exposed parts of each one of those 3 and puts them into one.
What a
So
difference.
So this was the result of that.
Yeah.
And I think I have right next to it is this is what Mike likes. He likes the black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But by taking the 3 different images like that, you know, the system will decide what is properly exposed and not, and puts it together. And then you can even post-process it more after that. So what I found that the Affinity does a better job than the Photoshop Elements, but it can be done in either one.
Well, and I've been proselytizing Photomatics Pro that is meant for combining 3 images or more. And you get all kinds of presets that you can look at, so you don't have to mess with any sliders or anything to find what you think is best. But
Yeah, and that's what's good with Affinity is when you bring them together, they will give you presets on the side. And again, you can press that preset and then that can be either the finished product or it can be a place where you start doing a little more work to it. Yeah, I found that the Affinity did more on taking the 3 images and aligning them together and doing some tone work in it. So I tend to get a little better results out of the Affinity. But again, Photoshop Elements will do it too. So we'll set up a time when people who are interested we can get together and just do it. I'm planning on doing this up at the Seymour Center July 15th, I think it was on a Saturday. So, you know, if somebody can't make it, you know, between now and then, and you have a Saturday available, you'll have to call Seymour Center to sign up, but we're going to do just bracketing as well as blending them together, and then also spend a little time on in-camera HDR.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it's going to be about.
So that's July 15th on a Saturday.
I think it is July.
Yeah.
I'll have to check.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah, because what I'm going to do is show a few examples with some images that I have, like the one I did there, but I want to take pictures inside that room, because inside of a room up there, it's always dark inside. You always have a window that's way overexposed. So what I'll be doing is taking the 3 images to show how you can get the detail in that window that your camera won't get, because the highlights would just be blown out and you could never bring them back. So it's once you do it a few times, it's like, oh, that was pretty simple, but sometimes you just need to get going.
Okay, thanks,
Would you,
Bill.
Bill,
We
would you
found it.
prefer, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
Bob. No, go ahead.
Bill, would you prefer we come to the Seymour Center rather than doing it a separate
Not
group?
really. Not really.
Okay,
Because the Seymour Centers, if they don't have enough people, it could be canceled. I mean, I gave a class there a couple of weeks ago on Saturday, and it was 10 or 12 people were signed up and 3 showed up.
Ah,
wow.
So if something like this doesn't gain enough traction, they'll end up canceling it. So I would prefer if we do it together. But and then the fact is we could do it sooner rather than later, if it ever stopped raining.
Yeah,
that's a
Our,
good
our next
point.
challenge, our next challenge will be rowboats,
yeah.
but that's all I got.
Okay, thanks again. We wound up with 22 photos today, so we've got some ground to cover. And as it so happens, Bill is up first.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Wow,
That's gonna be hard to beat that one.
that's a nice close-up.
Wow.
And he was quite a ways away, but
Yeah. Because you had your long lens that day.
yeah, this was, I forgot to write down all the specs, but most likely this was at probably about 450 millimeters.
Wow.
I pretty much kept it on 5.6, which is the lowest f-stop that lens has. And
Wow. He looks annoyed with the paparazzi, photographing him.
what I really learned is that I've got to pay more attention to doing things manually. I probably would have fared better if I had gone to manual, left the ISO on automatic, and forced the f-stop to be like an f8, and kept the shutter speed at 1,000. Because back in the yellow, you can see that it's starting to fade a little bit. Because when you use a large lens like that, your depth of field becomes more narrow just because of the use of a long lens. It's a thing called compression. So I probably could have done a little better on it by understanding that, but I like it when I go out and do things that I normally don't do, and shooting birds was one of them.
Yeah.
Great
So-
shot.
You don't have written down what the settings were on that one, right, Bill?
No, I'm pretty sure it'd probably be 5.6.
Okay.
You know, I kept it at 1,000 shutter speed on just about everything. And the ISO might have come up to 500 or so, but
Hey, does anybody have any tips on going back to Mike? So I noticed that on my computer, those blue feathers in the foreground are mooring a lot. Does anybody know how that kind of thing is going to print? If you were to print this photograph, what would happen to that beautiful texture and the blue feathers in the foreground?
Yeah, and I think that gets back to Tom having a calibrator so that what you're seeing on your screen is what the printer is going to print.
Uh-huh.
And it should be true if your screen is calibrated. I have a calibrator, but I'm still having some problems with my decades-old printer. But you should get what you see is what you should get.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I've done that, what is it, spider monkey or spider thing or something. And it did make a difference. My images were starting to come out what I saw versus having to maybe darken the monitor a little bit and guess through it. It did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I printed those images for the wall and what we did for Frank's too, I mean, that was
Ah,
The Sharks and the Jets, West Side
that's right,
Story.
it does. It's like the dance scene in the gym.
Yeah, these four look like they're getting ready for battle. And
That's it.
actually, I do have an image with the two on the top with their heads and their mouths locked together as well.
Wow. That is great.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't get those bushes out of the way, but
Yeah, sometimes it's tough. You just got to go with what you have there. You can't, especially
And
shooting at a place like that.
and there's so much going on too up there, which is really terrific. I mean, stuff just all of a sudden starts happening, and it just depends on where you are at the time. But
Wow.
yeah, and as you can see, I put this in a 5x5.
Yeah.
1x1, if you want to call it that. But and I was trying to balance it out a little bit because of the crap on the left would have been distracting.
This next one's Bill's as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, this one was tough because of all that bright white feathers. And so I think I slightly underexposed this one so that I could get that detail, and then did a little bit in post-processing as well. Again, most of all these shots were probably between 400 and 500 millimeters. Like a fool, I kept it on 5.6 and 1,000 shutter speed, and just let the ISO take up the difference. But this one was interesting to me because, yeah, he may be cleaning himself, but it's,
Yeah. Love
You
the
just-
yellow underneath the
Yeah.
wing there.
yeah, you just get the little hint of his eye, and you get the nose, and
Yeah.
so
That's great.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful image, and I'm not thinking about the technical quality, which is great, but the choice of that image. I'm sure this bird was doing 100 things while you had the camera on it, but the lines and so forth. To me, it looks like it's praying. I don't know why, but it looks like it's doing something. You look at it and it's not just a picture, it's a picture of a thing happening. It seems to me there's kind of an event going on. And, I like it a lot. And
Yeah, as good as the first one is, Bill, I think I like this one best too. And I think that I couldn't express it personally, but I think Stephen's spot on. So, but three great images. Larry is up next.
Ah,
Mm,
great colors, Larry. Wow.
Yeah, this bird was hiding in that little building that the kids would go into to feed the parakeets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw it was in its cage by itself, all the way in the corner. Did anyone see this one?
I'm trying.
no, I'm
can't remember
jealous
seeing-
that you found it. It's a beautiful bird.
The colors were the things that I was going for, and I was glad I at least could get the eye. It was moving around pretty quickly, but at least the background was modeled, and I was able to get through the grate, in the cage. So
Yes. Yeah.
the colors are just unbelievable. And that tail the tail is just incredibly long. I mean, it's just a beautiful bird.
Nice capture, Larry.
Nice, Larry.
This is Larry's as well.
Wow.
So I was waiting for it to fly, or at least bring its wings up, but that's the best I could get. I have one with the wings up, and it's just the feathers underneath are just gorgeous, but it wasn't the full wing. And so I went with this. It was one of the few I had that were really crisp. It's hard to shoot these guys, as you know.
Did you crop it?
Yeah, I did, just for the outside. I brought the bird up a little
Did
bit, but
did you have his feet before you cropped it?
no, I didn't. I didn't get the feet.
Okay.
Wow.
What is this, Larry? Do you know?
I have no idea. Steven
That's-
would probably know. I don't know.
It's a bird.
Yeah,
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
big bird, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
big
bird.
Nice shots, Larry.
Yeah.
Bob is up next.
Wow.
so this was I used manual on, I have 2 shots. I use manual and I don't usually use manual, but I did that. And
Mhm.
this was 110 millimeters. Let me see. Oh, this one was, let me see, one thousandth of a second and f-stop of 6.3.
Hmm.
Again, on manual.
And Larry, I'm sorry, Bob, this was through the fence, right? Or not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can't see it. I'm not saying that,
No.
Yeah,
but it would illustrate getting up close and how with depth of field, you can make the fence disappear. But
yeah. So I don't remember if it was if this one was through the fence or not.
Do you remember what little cage this was taken in? Because I remember the last one we went into, everything was encaged in there. The fencing was on the outside. So you were able to get up pretty close to most of the birds.
Yeah, I don't think this was through the wire, and I
Yeah.
think this might have been towards the end, but I'm not. We took so many, I think I took 300 pictures. Yeah.
It looks like the fencing in the background on the left is what's in focus the most.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the head maybe, I can't tell exactly, but the head might be a little clearer,
Mm-hmm.
but other
Yeah.
parts are a little bit more out of focus. And could that have been changed if I used a different f-stop? Any ideas, anybody?
well, I think you did a good job of controlling the background, Bob. The part of the bird that I think is most important has a much blurrier fence behind it or wire behind it
Right.
than the area to the left. And I don't know whether that actually even draws you into the beak, but
Do you
anyway.
remember, did you focus on like his eye?
I think I tried to, yes.
Okay. Wow.
And this was a similar, this was 110 millimeters, f6.3 again, on manual. And I wish I had taken the names down and taken the time to know what the bird is that I shot. Because after I got done, I thought, boy, it really would be
Yeah.
nice to know.
That's a Victoria's crown pigeon, by the way.
Yeah. I think it is.
It's just a pigeon, that's it?
I took the same, I took the same bird. I remember you and I were in there.
Yeah,
And then I said, you jerk, why didn't you write down what it
I
was?
didn't know.
So I
I
went
know.
on their website and looked through all of the cages and this crown or Victoria crown pigeon was really close. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question is it cute or is it so ugly that it's cute?
Yeah. Several of them are so ugly, they're cute.
That's right.
That
Yeah.
hair reminds me of me back in the 70s when I used to get a fro.
That's right.
Bob,
And
you did some really nice things in both these photos, Bob.
Good.
I think the work you're putting in is showing.
Yeah. Nice
Good.
job.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Bad.
Helen,
Yeah, as I looked at all of my pictures, I had the urge to put
Awesome.
a caption on every one of them because the birds seem to be saying something. And that one to me is saying, bug off. would be a nice way to put it.
I was
Let me-
gonna use a different word.
Yeah, saying, don't bother me any more than you have bothered me.
Yeah.
I had, as many of you know, I had trouble with the setting on my camera, and when I got down in the depths back in the back of the park, I didn't get many pictures because I wasn't getting enough light. But that one was one of my favorite just because of the bird's expression.
The eye is,
Yeah.
talk about the evil eye looking at you.
Oh, yeah, that is an evil eye. I don't even know what body part that over on the right is. I assume that that belongs to that bird, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They were so convoluted. Those of you that didn't go, the flamingos were very intimate.
it's
Intimate
tack
is
sharp.
not the word, but anyway, that was my best effort.
I think it's a great picture. I really like it.
Absolutely awesome.
Great job.
Yeah.
And then
So how
you-
did you get rid of the background?
I didn't do it. It did itself. However, I did it. I don't think I sharpened that one a little bit, but I don't think that I got rid of the background. It just happened.
And
Yeah.
that one's even sharp enough that you can crop it even closer too.
Yeah.
So,
The background really adds to it. The contrast, that the orange
Mhm,
with that greenish background, I guess I'd call it.
Mhm.
mhm.
But no,
FedEx just brought me a new monitor.
Wow.
That's why I've been jumping up and down. I'm finally getting tired of not being able to tell what my color and what my exposure is. So I have a new monitor on the porch. This is another one, and it to me says, "Aren't I beautiful?"
That's right.
That expression is so supercilious. I did play with the light on the left. It was darker, and I played with the
Oh,
ripples
okay.
that were on that side to kind of balance things out. And I sharpened him some using.
I did feel when we were photographing that they were posing for us.
Yeah.
They would
that
come
one.
over towards you and then stop and then,
Yeah.
like Madonna.
Yeah. That expression.
Right.
Two great shots.
And again, that background, that green background against the orange really makes them stand out.
elementary colors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good work, Helen.
Nice.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Whoa.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
Let's see, yeah, this is an egret shot down at the beach, and I like how soft the grass is.
Mm.
Mhm.
And then I really worked on the egret was equally as soft, and so I really worked on getting the sharpness in the bird, trying to get the bird sharp. So I worked on it quite a bit. And then I discovered when I zoomed in on it that you can see that bird has been eating.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
got a fish on it.
Yeah. I had no idea until I started working on the photograph. Anyway, I just like how it just feels like the beach ought to feel.
It looks like a painting.
It does.
Sure does.
Very nice abstract quality to it.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah, I like
the
the-
color you chose for the frame too.
Yeah, I've been messing with
How did you
these,
get the softness of the grass in contrast to the sharpness of the bird?
Yeah. And even the
Uh,
foreground and background is soft, but the bird is sharp.
well, the bird was equally as soft, and I
Sharp.
did a lot of selective sharpening on it.
Uh-huh.
And then I think I duplicated the sharpening, duplicate.
Uh-huh.
And then a lot of the artifacts that come in subsequently, I would clone out and
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a really nice effect, I think.
yeah, I like the contrast of the
Yeah.
reasonable sharpness of the bird and the softness of the grass.
Oh, cool.
What-
This one I kind of hesitate to put in because it's so sad, but I was in the.
Dead bird.
Yeah. I was
Where
in
is
the-
this, where is this, Tom? Or how did you do this?
I was in the dining room there that you know well, and I heard that awful clunk,
Yeah.
and I went outside, and that I did not touch that. That's exactly the way it, well, excuse me, I didn't touch the bird, but there was a lot of jetsam around in the moss, and I picked that out, but I left the rocks, seemed appropriate.
Hmm.
But
Is that a thrush?
oh God, please don't tell me.
I think,
I'm afraid so. I'm
yeah.
afraid so.
Did you check?
The vignetting, the vignetting, I think, really makes this one too, putting a spotlight, basically.
Yeah, I exaggerated the vignette just to, I don't know, it seemed respectful.
Yeah.
Did you change the color, Tom?
On no. Mm-mm.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway, it's just so incredibly sad.
Caught the emotion.
And the bird is so amazingly beautiful, and it is quite sharp even for one that I take. I mean,
Sad,
I
but well
usually don't.
done.
Very good.
Thanks, Tom.
Mhm.
Lynn is up.
Yeah,
Well, archive pictures. I was so sad I didn't get to go because I was sick, obviously. This is an albatross taken probably South Georgia Island, down close to Antarctica, sitting on a nest.
Oh, wow.
That's
Wow.
cool.
She's beautiful.
They're fun to watch.
Look at the mound. Look, she's sitting on a mound of,
Yeah.
That's her nest.
yeah,
These are really big birds.
wow.
They're huge. But it looks really soft, but that's just the way the bird looks,
Mm,
I think. And then there's I guess a blade of grass going across that you see a little bit of.
Oh, yeah. I see
Oh
it.
yeah. Mhm, mhm.
Good pick.
Had a great show.
Mm.
Oh,
Same
wow.
place.
Another evil eye.
Oh, yeah.
Different cross, same place.
Oh, that's exquisite.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
How clear that is.
Really
Yeah.
nice.
I'm sorry, I don't know any of the particulars about f-stops or anything.
Well, two good photos.
Yeah.
Susan's up next.
So
Yeah.
the reason I didn't get to go with you all is I went to Florida, and there's a wetlands called Wakotahachie wetlands, and they had lots of birds. And these were two, they're called black-bellied whistling ducks.
Where is this in Florida?
It's in it's a place called Delray Beach. It's near Boca Raton.
Okay.
All right.
So
It's really an exquisite place. I've been there several times, and I would urge it upon you if you're anywhere near that part of Florida. It's dense with birds.
it is, yeah. And one of the pictures I didn't get was all these birds in a tree, but I couldn't do it. Anyway, actually, this was with my point and shoot camera, which is what I often bring when I'm traveling. And it's what is it? it's a Canon PowerShot G7 Mark II. And I put it on aperture priority. So it was f8, 1/200th of a second, ISO 200 and 38.6 millimeters. So the point and shoot has a zoom on it.
It is crisp.
It's
Yeah, and a good job in cropping it. Just, I think it's, if you cropped it too much more, that it would lose a lot of the feel of it.
And that's interesting you say that, because I kept trying to crop the background and it never gave the same effect. So I
Yeah.
cropped very, very little. So actually the background helped make it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I get that. One of the things I like that really stands out with this image is the way they're looking in different directions, like they're not talking.
Yeah,
They're upset with each other somehow.
yeah.
They got each other's backs.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
This is a wood stork. And again, with the same, it was f8, 1/160th of a second, ISO 125. And as we were walking on the boardwalk, here's this
Oh,
bird. And at first I tried to crop out the foot on the upper left.
Oh, no, no.
Then I
no.
realized that it sort of, to me at least, it kind of added to the picture.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's great. Footwear. It's about footwear.
Right, yeah.
And it shows that he feels comfortable with humans.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, this one's really sharp as well.
Yeah.
That is.
You can see that well, no, I say that, but you can see the screws are Phillips head. I think that's how sharp that is.
Gosh.
Is that with the G7 Mark II?
It is. And so I
Yeah.
almost want to give credit to the camera rather than to the camera. I have to confess. Yeah.
Nice job, Sue.
Yeah.
good.
All right, Frank, who's not playing golf but is here with us.
Wow.
I remember Larry, Bob and I were directed to the same bird. This was,
Yep.
and this was at the far end of that cage. And so I got him as he was coming out. There was nothing blocking me in front of him. So this was shot at, let's see, this is, yeah, it's a brown pigeon, and it was a 120, 250th of a second, 135 millimeter f5.6. And wait, hold on. And then, so what, 1600, because it was a little dark in the back of that cage there. But what I liked about it was the contrast between his red eye and the blue on the rest of his body. You know, just really made it stand out. The only thing that I wish I was able to do was to get rid of that piece of wood as part of the cage, like right behind him.
I thought you were going to say keep his foot in.
Yeah, and also too, if I could have, if I had gotten back a little bit, I didn't crop it out. I think it was just I was too tight on the shot itself.
The comb on this bird is what blows me away.
But I'm sorry, what was that, Mike?
The comb,
Yeah.
the headdress.
Oh, yeah. No, that is really great. I mean, they're just such beautiful birds. I mean, I guess some would say they're ugly, but I think this one was beautiful.
Yeah. This one to me was lovely.
Yeah.
And the colors on the comb are just amazing, having the white and the blue.
Mhm. Yeah, it really did stand out. There were a couple of them there, but I think that part, that last cage we went into, I guess they Paradise, Birds of Paradise, they called it. To me, I like that the best. I think I've got more shots inside there that I could use.
You got every feather is sharp.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
And the background is just blurry enough, except for that wood
Yeah.
cross or whatever it is in there.
I don't know how it would have worked because the feathering is so fine up around its head.
Mhm.
I found it really helpful with Lightroom, Photoshop and so forth will allow you to select background or subject.
Yeah.
And they do kind of often just a wonderful job. And let's say that you had, selected either, that you could work on that without touching the other thing.
Right.
But when it's so intricately interwoven like that, I think it would drive you crazy to try to separate them manually. And it might, and I don't know, because it does a quite a remarkable job, but I think it'd be really tough to do that separation, be worth a shot, because it just takes a click. And then you see whether you got an easy job or an impossible job.
Yeah.
I tried and gave up on my shot of that bird.
Mike Blotzer, you can chime in because I'm about to talk about what you sent me, but Mike sent me an article from Washington Post showing the next evolution of post-processing, and it's post-processing artificial intelligence, where you can talk to the software, eliminate background, and it will do it.
There's an article in the, I think that was the New York Times or Washington Post, and it was talking about the anyone who's using Adobe, their photo editing software. That's a feature that's coming out, and they showed a photo of the author who had it change his hair from short to fuzzy to Bozo the Clown, and it's amazing what the AI will be able to do to your photos. So
it was a cool article
coming soon to a computer near you.
So what were they
You can
saying?
share that if you want.
Yeah, they say is it going to be an add-on to like?
I don't know if it's an add-on. I don't use Photoshop, but it was an interesting article. Let me see. I can probably post the link here in the chat.
Okay.
Let me find that. Yeah, because there's something in Photoshop that some of the folks in Chapel Hill Camera Club have been going back and forth with, is something called generative fill that can help with backgrounds and things like that. I have no clue what it means, but they seem to get some pretty good results.
It gets very interesting results. I mean, this one, in Lightroom, I think this would be a pretty simple separation of foreground from background. But I've been playing with the generative fill, and what's peculiar about it, let's say that you had that picture that you were just looking at, and with 2 clicks, it would select the background, and then you say words to it, like you might say jungle foliage. And it will pull up its notion, some photo of jungle foliage and make that the background. And it fills in perfectly around all the intricacies of the foreground.
Yeah.
It might also give you something just completely weird, but then, it gives you, you can keep trying different combinations that you get kind of odd things that way. But it does just an unbelievably good job of doing that. And it is dead simple. It requires no skill whatsoever, which is something I like a lot. Just say, change the background, please, and make it like this. And wham, it does.
I posted the article to the chat, so you can click on that. And he's got probably a dozen photos in there that have been manipulated, and it's an article on the generative fill.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the link, Mike. And this is Frank's second
one. This one was taken in that same section that Birds of Paradise, and there were these 2, I guess, I don't know if they're parakeets or what. I forgot to write down what they were, but this was taken, let's see, 200 millimeter, 1/250th of a second, f/5.6, and an ISO of 500. But what attracted me to it was I hung around there for a while. They were looking all over the place, and I wanted to get them looking pretty much at each other. And so I was lucky; they did it pretty soon, so I was able to capture the image of them. And again, I like the colors of the the reds and the yellows of the one, and then the other one was a little more subdued, but I just like that fact of them like looking at each other and standing on that branch. And the background was just, but the 5.6 was just blurry enough that it was okay.
Probably a male and female.
I wonder, yeah, I tried looking them up on that when I went back to the site, but the pictures they have there are drawings and they're so small, it's
Yeah.
hard to identify.
If you're on Flickr, there is an ID group for almost everything.
Oh, okay.
Meaning if you post it on the bird identification group, they'll tell you what it is.
Is
Colors
any
here are
of this
great.
cropped, Frank?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is any of this cropped?
Yeah, I did crop it a bit, yeah.
Yeah, because I was almost wondering what it might look like with the entire tails and maybe vertical,
Mm-hmm. Okay,
or maybe more squarish. I don't know.
yeah. I can go back to the original and see what I could do with it.
Can you see that dotted line?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Two good shots, Frank.
Definitely.
All right.
Sure.
Mike
Oh.
B. Mike B is up.
Wow,
Nice shot.
nice, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to go to the Sylvan Bird Sanctuary, but I was on my annual 2-week motorcycle trip, so I just pulled a few photos that I like, and this was taken in February of 2020. Snow here is very rare, and I love going out after a snowfall and looking for birds to photograph. And I was lucky to find this Carolina wren. It's 400 millimeter. It's a Canon 7D Mark II body with EF 100 to 400 millimeter lens. We're at ISO 100 f5.6 and 1/640th of a second.
Tripod?
No, I do all my birds handheld. So
I
I
knew
mean,
you
and if you
did.
zoom in the detail on the feathers, and one thing I like about the wing is the wingtips are almost, you can see they're thin and transparent as opposed to the fuzziness, and yeah, I kind of like this shot.
Yeah.
catch light in the eye.
And you said that was 5.6 f-stop?
Yeah, 5.6 f-stop, ISO 100 and 1/640th of a second.
It's remarkable.
I
when
always do.
you-
I always do manual ISO. And then I will do for my birds, I do manual ISO, and I do shutter priority so that I like to keep my shutter speed around, well, with 400, 1/400th or 500th and above with the 400 millimeter lens handheld.
Well, it's amazing that it's handheld.
That is, it's so
These
clear.
are
It's
an
amazing to
amazing shot,
me
even if
that,
it was on a tripod.
yeah, that's amazing to me that from the tip of his tail to the tip of his beak is in focus. It's
I think the tail's a little bit
it's a little
blurred
bit,
at the tip, but yeah.
it's still
Good picture.
wow.
Beautiful.
Carolina wrens are just cute little birds. They're fun.
Handheld. Jeez.
And then there's
Oh,
this.
wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, this was, I was walking on the Creekwood Trail, and I heard a bird that I didn't recognize, and I'm reaching into my pocket with my for my phone for the Merlin bird app, which will identify birds by their song. And as I reached my hand in, I looked to the right, and this red-tailed hawk was on a branch about 12 foot away and about 10 feet off the ground. And I expected him to fly away as I slowly raising my camera. And I just simply turned to him and slowly raised the camera, saying,
I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to take your picture. And I was able to take 27 photos before he
Took
Wow.
off.
flew off.
Wow.
He
And
didn't have that catch light in his eye.
Yeah.
well, actually, there were two catch lights in his eye, and I thought that was a little bit disturbing. I think one was a reflection off the stream
Uh-huh.
on the Creekwood Trail, and so I cloned that second one out
Okay.
Wow.
because there's one direct from the sun and one reflected off of the water.
Hmm.
And two of them was just annoying. I couldn't handle it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's another one that might have a caption.
Yeah.
Very
And
nice.
I don't know if you have experienced the cedar waxwings in Carrington Village on the Camden Park, but last 2 years they haven't been as numerous as they were. But for years and years, every January you'll get a flock of 60 plus cedar waxwings sitting in a tree, and about a third of them peel off, and they start stripping the possum haw berries off of the bushes. And if you're careful, you need a little bit of cover, but you can get close enough to get some really good shots. And it's an amazing event. Last couple of years, this winter, there were only about 20 cedar waxwings that came in, and it was, but yeah, I've got probably 1,000 cedar waxwing photos, and this is a nice one.
Yeah, it's a
And
very
again, the
nice.
detail is pretty clear. This is, let me see, I think it's, yeah, this is ISO 640 f 5.6, 1/400th of a second handheld.
Wow.
400 millimeter.
Amazing.
If you get in the mountains where they're eating mountain ash berries in the winter, the berries ferment and they eat them and they get drunk. And then you get photos of drunken cedar waxwings kind of staggering around.
Yeah, they don't pick, they'll eat the possum haw berries. Generally it's mid to late January through early
Mhm.
February. So I'm sure they've got a little nip to them. The other thing they do is in the summer, there is oh shoot, a mulberry tree that's at the corner of West Camden and Caldwell Street. And that mulberry tree, in about June, the berries start to ripen, and you'll find the cedar waxwings gleaning berries from that. So they'll arrive a couple times during the year here in Carrington Village.
Mike, are you still doing the calendar?
Yeah. I think this year I've taken kind of I guess almost a year off from photography, and other than my Grand Cotiwampa photos, but I'll probably do kind of pull together my favorite birds from the last 7 or 8 years of calendar and put one together.
All right. Nice shots, more than nice shots. Excellent.
Thanks.
And this is Chuck.
Nice.
Chuck, are you still with us or did we lose you?
You're on mute, Chuck.
I guess he signed up.
Yeah, I was on mute. I was sorry. I was just
okay.
saying that I wasn't quite as successful as Michael was, but capturing cedar waxwings, they came to visit. It's about the second or third time they've been in my front yard, and it's a Yopon holly, and I just couldn't quite. I took many shots, but and I like this one because of the motion that it shows. There were probably at least 60 of them, Mike. I think there were quite a few of them, and they stayed for a few days. They stripped the Yopon, and then over to the side, I have some other hollies. And they found them again this year. I think they were there last year, but the year before they weren't there. But then they had been there like a previous year or so. And usually at the end of April is when they come for these berries. And yeah, so anyway, that's I was shooting with speed priority, shutter speed priority. I was shooting at 1,000, and then it ended up being at a pretty high. I put it on automatic ISO. It was like 1100 ISO also. It's a 300 millimeters because of my crop sensor. It's a 200 millimeter lens on a crop sensor Nikon camera. Anyway, so I was disappointed that I couldn't quite get this guy in focus, but there was another one that my other one is a little bit more in focus, but it's not quite as satisfying a picture. They're just beautiful birds, and that's a a pretty. I think it's probably a 30% magnification of that. I really cropped it and enlarged it, and that was the best. The coloring is just amazing on those birds.
Yeah, don't undersell this one, Chuck. This is a good shot.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think so. And it was the best in terms of showing the eye and having it pretty well in focus. But I had some other more interesting, like dive bombing shots. They would tend to be in one of my oak trees off to the side, and the slightest little motion or noise, and they would vacate the feeding area, and then they would slowly come back, a dozen at a time or so. And there's just constant movement. It's just amazing to watch them work a tree.
Yeah, it's a real treat to watch them feed. It's better than TV.
Yeah. But they always leave me some nice presents all over my deck too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Stop share. Whoops. Some really good photos from everybody.
I'm glad we did the birds as a subject, because I'm personally am becoming more and more aware of there being fewer and fewer birds. And somebody was saying, remember when we were children at dawn in the morning, there was just an explosion of bird song. It isn't that way anymore. And I think we all need to be doing everything we can to help the birds. What that might be, I don't know, other than go out and lynch a bunch of developers. But I didn't say that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we made the trip out to the Sylvan Park.
Yeah, me too.
That was great.
That was a lot of fun.
I want to go again and have my settings correct. Excuse me, correct.
But it's good to do something like this because, birds are generally not of interest to me. But it's not because of anything other than I've never been forced to do it. And by being forced to do it and then having this trip up to the Sylvan Heights, it kind of brought a little more to the things that I might be shooting in the future. Especially if I get the Z8 soon. I see Steve in there smiling a little bit because he has his,
It makes things a lot simpler. The lock onto eyes, or you say on birds, and am I in focus becomes kind of a unnecessary consideration.
Nice.
Well, good meeting again. And
Yes.
we'll see you in person, we hope, on
July 4th.
Yeah, it's impossible for me to believe it's going to be July in 2 weeks, but apparently that's what the calendar says. So yeah, the 4th at 11 at the church.
Right.
And we're doing Barnes, right?
We're doing Barnes.
Yep.
Right.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
You.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Mike.
Yes.
Thank you
well.
all.
Take it
Everyone
easy,
take
everybody.
care.
Bye.